Hello YouTube! Welcome to the second episode of my little experiment here to teach myself coppersmithing. Now I have a few goals today that I want to accomplish. First being is I want to remove the stickers from the lily thing I made for my sister, the doorbell escutcheon. That way we can see if it stayed shiny underneath and didn't corrode. The second thing we're going to do is make an anklet on this string here for my wife's hoodie, and as you can see, when she bought it new from the concert, it didn't have one, so we're going to make her one out of copper. The third thing is I'm going to actually, on this whiteboard, explain how hammering shapes copper and science behind it. The last thing we're going to do is use that knowledge that I demonstrated to try to make a mushroom that my wife actually drew, and I was able to make a stencil on using my 3D printer. So please stay tuned. Like I said before, your likes, your comments, all that greatly helps. Ooh, butterfly. Greatly helps all of the growth of this channel. So please share it with your friends and all that if you like it. That being said, I've taken enough time explaining things, and this is the boring part, so let's get into the good part. Jumping right in, got a hair dryer, and what we're going to do is heat up the sticker enough to try to loosen it up so that it peels adhesive off of it. We want to use a hair dryer and not a torch or something like that, because I want to keep that corrosion there. If you heat up corrosion, sometimes it flakes off. So we're going to see what we can do here real quick. All right, let's see what that did. Got a little heat into it. Yep. All right. So now I'm going to try to lift one of these stickers off. There we go. It's coming. Come on, please be shiny. Oh, I think it is. I think it worked. All right, I'm going to peel the rest of this off camera real quick, and then I'll show you the result. After about 40 minutes of tedious peeling, there it is. I'm going to go hit it with some Dawn dish soap lightly so it doesn't take the corrosion off, but it'll remove whatever I touch with my hands, the oil, so it doesn't match. I'm going to set it out in the Florida sun to dry, and then I'm going to clear coat it so it permanently stays like this. But this is how it's going to look on the wall. Now this will go into place once I get it pushed in with some pliers, like the little tabs, but hopefully that works for them. Okay, now that that is done, next thing we're going to do is make my wife's anklet. I already have a stud on here that's about the same size here. Let me turn this. Oh. All right. So we're going to cut the copper to the size width, and then we're going to roll it over this stud and then crimp it onto that string. I'll be right back after I get this cleaned up and in the sun. First item accomplished. Now let's make this anklet for my wife. To do that, we're going to use this micrometer, caliper, non-digital. We have digital ones, but I like the analog. Anyways, for simplicity's sake, all we're going to do is take the width of this, 0.815 in length, but it doesn't matter. We don't have to exactly transpose that. We're trying to save time here, so we have little tricks. I got that width, I locked it in place, that's sharp. All we're gonna do is take it along here, hold that over the edge, and score it. Now we have a line that is the width of that anklet. So if I show you, it is that width, right there. Doing the best I can. Anyways, let's put that back safely. Back in this pouch. Set that off to the side. Set my wife's string off to the side out of the way. Real simple. Just gonna take our line and cut it with the shears. Just literally like cutting paper out when you were a kid. That's probably enough. Probably more than enough. We're only making a roll with it, so a little overkill, but hey, we got a scrap bin. We can use that scrap for other things. Now we got that. Set that off to the side. Set the shears off to the side. On my little baby jeweler's anvil, I'm going to take it and hammer it out. Very gently. Don't want to leave any cacking in it. Just work along the edge that we did the cut, is where you normally are, because that's where the tension was put into the metal. The goal is to remove the tension where you created it. And you could get it pretty darn good and flat again. Alright, now it's flat again and no kinks in it. I'm going to set this off to the side. And we're just going to roll it. Just literally just tapping it into a circle. The trick to this is to keep your work perpendicular with your rod here so that it keeps it straight, so you don't get a little wonky or off and it's not, you know, gonna wrap around right. Keep tapping it. Keep rolling it around. Eventually I'll get better rodding and stuff like that than the Chinese thing that came with whatever it was that got installed. I don't know, I forget what this is from. Little BS tools that they include in the kit. Just keep wrapping it around. Bring it around town. See how we're starting to turn that in? That's the goal. We just gotta keep working it in. Tap on the end, the top here, kind of get it to curl a little bit more. See how my hammer bounces? It means the energy is being absorbed by this rod as opposed to being put into the copper. So eventually what I was talking about is I need to actually get something that's more rigid, like actual tool steel to be using, as opposed to cheap China pot metal. So, just keep going, I guess. There we go, it's starting to roll. Probably should take this off. See, technically you don't have to worry about getting oil on it, the copper, because technically you're supposed to dip it in sulfuric acid, because sulfuric acid actually will eat the corrosion but does not affect the copper. So now we have bare copper again. Like I said, I way overdid the size, but it's easier to hold it onto it and you can always cut it shorter. So now let's start working this back. All right, now that we have it looped over, I'm going to shear it, and then we need to stuff that string into it and then kind of round it into it. So my shears. Got this. Give it a little bit more. There we go. Got a scrap piece of copper. You can always use scrap, so throw it in a bin. Now, we got this string. We got stuff in it. This is gonna be the hard part. Yeah, maybe not that hard. Look at that. It's going in. We even got the tweezers from earlier. we can pull it through. Now I am gonna trim this shorter actually, so that don't matter. Now you can just kind of slowly work it in to itself. Just keep hammering along the seam so it'll tighten up. If I hammer down this way into the seam, it's going to tighten it onto the barrel. So just keep tapping, just keep tapping. A little bit more, it's still wanting to slide. Just take our time. Oh, I also want you guys to keep in mind that I've never made any of this before, and this is the first time I've ever done this, so this really isn't a tutorial, this is just how I'm doing it. But it's starting to tighten up. That's good. We are going to add just a dab of super glue to it once we get her cranked down on there, so it really cannot come off. If you look at how this actually was made from the factory, it was made in a similar fashion. We got this where I'm somewhat happy with it. I think it looks all right for, you know, first time I've ever done this. So now I'm going to put a little flux along here, and then I'm going to use a soldering iron actually, as opposed to heating it up, because I don't want to burn the cotton string. And I'm going to put a bead of solder here, a very light one, and then we're going to chop this end off and then put a dab of super glue on it so that it holds it to it. I mean, it's already on there pretty darn good actually, but we do not want it coming off in the wash, and I don't want to totally crimp it down to where it cuts the string. All right, my soldering iron is heated up. I'm going to try to get this tip of this brush to cooperate. The least amount of flux we could get away with, the better, because wherever you put the flux is where the solder is going to stick. So I am gently just going to brush a little bit along the edge here. Just a little bit. And the cool thing about this is, I mean, it's silver. In plumbing, because it's drinking water, they use lead-free silver solder. So, in this instance, you know, you would literally heat up the item and then put the solder into it. I'm going to melt the solder onto the tip of the iron. Come on. Get a nice little baby bit on it, to where it's warmed up and all. And then I'm just going to drag it across here. And try to get to go into it. Alright, I don't know where the video cut out, but I got an SD card error, so we'll see what happens. Ooh, I almost burnt myself. Anyways, that's a rough solder right there job. I mean, it's sealed the seam. I am going to take it to the Dremel and clean it up a little bit, and maybe polish it a little bit before we do cut that and put the final touches on it. So I'm going to go get the Dremel and I'm going to clean that up, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Alrighty, little cleanup, little polish. I think that looks pretty darn good. All right, I'm gonna nip this off. Probably burn it actually. Nah, I'll nip it off with the scissors, hit that with some super glue, and then I'll clear coat it and it should be good. All right, we're gonna move on to the next thing then after I show you this real quick. All right, I taped it all up with blue tape, and then I hit it with a couple coats of clear coat. So all it's left is to let it dry and then show her. I hope she likes it. All right, moving on. You know how on older copper items, there's this like hammer pattern on it, Have you ever wondered why there is? I'll explain it here. The reason is that we hammer copper is to actually strengthen it through tension. And I'm using this scrap piece to show you an example of why. It's a lot harder to hammer a pattern on a small piece. Please keep that in mind. But you can actually see it starting to happen. For one, it curls up so we can actually shape the metal this way. And two, watch what happens when I bend this side. Bends pretty easily. This side, look, it's bending the other side first. It's because the surface tension of these dimples push outward. Let's go over to the whiteboard. It'll be easier to explain there. So why do we hammer copper? We hammer copper to add strength to it. Let's pretend this board is water for this instance. Water is so much less dense than copper is, so it can dissipate energy. I got my hammer hit. Boom. I hit the hammer into the water. It's going to transfer the energy outward. Same as anything else. So you're going to get your ripples come out and try to work their way out to the edges and then bounce their way back in to the center because it has to dissipate the energy through the medium. All right, so in our second instance, you get a better eraser. Let's pretend this is copper now. The copper is, I don't get the number on top of my head, but I'll look it up when I'm editing. So much more dense. So it cannot dissipate the energy the same way the water can. So we got our hammer hit. Boom. It's going to try to transfer the energy outward. But it can't really because it's so much more denser. So it's going to try to go this way. When it can't, it's going to go inward. That's why it creates a dimple in the copper. That dimple in the copper now, when we start doing hammer hit, 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 is all going to echo that energy. It's going to go outward this way on every single one of them. Same with this one. You get the idea, correct? So this point right here in between, it creates tension, and that tension actually is the trapped energy in the copper, which creates, keeps it from flexing as much and makes it stronger. So when you see hammer hits on copper or any metal that's doing it, it's literally an echo of the smith's energy going into that piece. Pretty neat, isn't it? Now you know why we hammer our copper. Because copper is soft, it is dense enough to be able to hold that energy inside it though and make it stronger. Now we understand why we do it. Let's make something using that principle. So, Heidi actually drew this. I converted it to an SVG on the computer, which then I was able to put into Fusion, Autodesk Fusion, and turn it into a 3D printable object. So, after that, I have a stencil now, obviously. That's what this is. It's my stencil. So, I'm going to find a piece of copper, try to save as much of this as possible, because the more you can make out of this, the more money you make, right? Right. And that's the point of a business, to make money. And I guess to teach. In this instance, of course, I'm learning myself, so, you know, experts, comment, please. I could use some feedback. Anywho, all right. I got my rough outline of my mushroom now. So put this off the side. I can make as many as I want using this now. That's kind of how I made this first piece. But the stem here on this palm tree, you can see on the back, I haven't acid dipped it or anything yet. I just soldered it up and did the hammering. But this piece right here, I actually have a stencil for. I have 2 of them, so I'm able to make more in the future. Anywho, enough showing that off. Let's make a mushroom. So now I got my shape. Put that pen off to the side with the stencil. Let me get my shears. I also throw this tote at my feet so I can catch my scraps as they drop. So we're going to cut roughly the outline of this. Try to save as much as we can. Concentrating. Concentrating. Alright. It's free! Yay! So now, put that off to the side. Now let's cut this out. This would probably be a good time to speed things up, so you know the drill. Enjoy the bluegrass. Alright, we have our little mushroom. Took me about 5 minutes to cut out, but the hammering is what's going to take some time. And I'm going to take it to the belt sander off camera here and smooth the edges and everything. And when I'm back, I'll have the anvil here and we'll start hammering this out. Now it's all smooth, can't cut me. Took all the sharp edges off of it. And actually, it's pretty flat still. I'm getting better at cutting. Haha. I'll take that as progress. Heck yeah. Alright, so now I need to make an anvil up here. Just like that. I don't know if that lined up, but you know, whatever, we tried. Anyways, so why do we have 2 different hammers though? Why 2 different sizes? Reason being is you can put 2 different size of divots in it. We're going to use the bigger hammer to do the regular plenishing to kind of shape the cap here a little bit, the top. And then we're going to take the little hammer and try to put little spots in for like little, I don't know, little spots. You know, little spots mushrooms have. Anyways, let's do the best part of any new thing and peel the clear protective plastic. Oh, it feels so good. So shiny. We're gonna dent it up. That's the goal. Alright, now that I did that, I wanna wrap this base in tape. Because I don't wanna plenish any of this down here. I'm gonna wrap this in tape, protect it. Plus we got a little handle now. So, get tapping, tap, tap, tap-a-roo. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to do like a line and go in between them, in between them, in between them, in between them. Almost like printing, like how a printer works. But it's just going to be tap, 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 tap. Anyways, more bluegrass for you. I think it turned out pretty cool. Now, let's remove the tape, if I could find the seam. There it is. If I could get the seam. There we go. And it's a mushroom. What do you think? I think it looks pretty cool. I don't know, put it down in the comments. This one will not be for sale. I will be making others. I do have the stencil. It takes me about maybe a half an hour. But I'm gonna start with mushrooms. Heidi has a couple other things that she has made and drawn that I'm working on. If you wanna see what I do make, follow on my Instagram. or on my Facebook group. It's Damali Copper. It's down in the description, but that being said, I think this is a good place to end the video. We accomplished a lot. I don't want to go on forever because I don't expect you guys to sit through an hour video once a week, so we're going to try to keep it short this time and see how you guys like it. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. You have the absolute best week that you can.